In this week's episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast, I sit down with someone whose story reminded me why we must keep believing in what is possible, even when life feels impossible. Charles Allen Reed survived years of addiction, trauma, and hopelessness, only to experience a moment that changed everything. His journey is raw, powerful, and filled with truth. And in our conversation, he opens up about growing up with a mom battling MS, early addiction and the spiral that followed, suicidal moments, hitting rock bottom, the spiritual experience that changed everything, rebuilding his life, his marriage, his fatherhood, and his faith, and why he now speaks openly to help others find hope. If you or someone you know is struggling, this episode could be a lifeline for them. Subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. And if you are navigating transition, burnout, leadership challenges, or you are ready to build your table instead of waiting for an invitation to someone else's, I would love to support you. Learn more about coaching, consulting, and workshops at todayisthedayliveit.com. Also, my upcoming book, Live It, featuring 31 powerful stories from voices across the globe, is launching in January 2026. It is a celebration of resilience, purpose, and connection. Pre-orders are coming soon, and don't forget to sign up again at todayisthedayliveit.com. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I'm your host, Jody Grinwald, and as I say, every single episode, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible, and many which have incredible stories to share that really help the listeners out there. And I want to thank we have listeners in over 131 countries, so it's just truly incredible. So I thank everyone. Please continue to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. And today I have Charles Allen Reed with me. Hi, Charles. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm good, and I'm so glad that you are on. And we met through a mutual friend, Armin, right?
Yes, Armin and I, we're great friends. We go to church together. Our kids are friends, so it's a great connection.
Armin Kamachian. I always try to say his
Right.
last name correctly.
Yeah, try to spell it. It's a lot harder too.
It is, but he wrote an incredible book, which I will plug here. He calls me Redeemed. He's been helping with giving me some sidebar information about a book that I have coming out. So let's give Armin a nice shout out, and I'm glad that he made this introduction. So thank you, Charles, for being on.
Yes.
And I'm going to read a little of your bio, and then we'll get into your story because I really want the listeners to hear your story.
Sure.
So, Charles Allen Reed was born into a life touched early by challenges. His mother lived courageously with multiple sclerosis, shaping Charles' early years with a deep awareness of hardship and resilience. And by the age of 13, Charles fell into alcohol addiction. And by 18, drugs became another chain around his life. The struggles of his youth deepened and suicidal thoughts took hold. Yet, by God's grace, and when we say God in this podcast, we talk about all higher powers because we want to make sure that everybody understands we know it's different and unique for each one of you. Charles' story would not end there. He became a survivor, not a statistic. And at age 42, on an ordinary day, everything changed. Charles encountered a life transforming white light experience, which we'll talk about more. I don't want to give it all away, Charles. And we're just so happy to have you here. You are an active member of the Cultneck Community Church, where faith and fellowship and service continue to deepen your walk with Christ. And I know, as we said, you know Armin there. And my dog Cello, for those who are watching, he always makes a
Yeah.
nice little appearance on this podcast here and there. So Charles, before we get into so much, and there's so much here, you grew up, you're born in New Jersey?
I'm born in New York City.
In New York City. All right. I'm
Yeah.
a New Yorker too. Where in New York?
Beth Israel in Lower East.
Ah,
Yeah, East Village. Yeah,
oh my goodness. Okay, so New York City, in the city.
in the city. That's where I'm from.
Oh wow. When did you move to New Jersey?
COVID.
Oh wow. All right. So you're newly transplanted here.
Yes. COVID finally forced me out of the city. I was there for
Wow.
like 20 years.
Okay. All right. I'm originally from Brooklyn, did the Staten Island thing, and then
Oh,
moved to New
nice.
Jersey. So yeah. So I get that. I get that. So, as a New York child, you know,
growing up, and I know, we shared right away here that you had challenges living with a mom that had MS. How old were you when your mom developed MS?
I was 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yes. So she had some symptoms that came on and she went to the doctor and found out.
Yeah, it was very gradual, which is a lot harder because the deterioration was over time. So she went from a walker to a cane to a walker to a wheelchair. She would lose function in her hands and then her legs and then her the rest of her body. So I had a lot of challenges with that, because that's my mom, and it was very hard.
So my dad had ALS, but he had it when I was in my 40s, and seeing him deteriorate so like I mean, it's 6 months. He deteriorated in 6 months. He said it was like rusting from the inside out. It is a
Mm.
horrible thing for any child at any age, and it was hard enough for me to handle at 40, whatever, I don't remember. Yeah, well, 43. And so I can't imagine being a child that young watching your mom go through that. So would you say that that was the precursor to why you found other things to relieve your your pain from that experience?
I think it definitely had something to do with it. It was more of like, well, my mom has this condition, so I'm going to go out and do whatever I want, and that started out with the alcohol, but it also started out before the alcohol with just bad behavior, like a rebellion against, essentially against, in a way, God, in a way, because would place blame, like in saying like, well, why would you let this happen to my mom? Why does my mom have to be sick when everybody else's mom is able to pick them up from soccer games and walk them around and come to events? Like that wasn't part of my situation. So it really, really dug into my heart and my soul, for sure.
So how old were you when you first started to get into all of this again, the drugs and the alcohol? You were 10?
No, so the alcohol and drugs started when I was 13.
13.
Um,
And where did you get, if you don't mind me asking, where did you find it? Was it in your own liquor cabinet or friends? Or, for those parents who are listening right now, concerned about their child getting involved in things, it's good for them to know, where does it start?
Yeah, great question. So multiple areas. So my parents' liquor cabinet for sure. When I would drink up the vodka, I would pour water in it. And I remember a time when they were hosting a party, and I saw them kept pouring the bottle into other people's drinks. But it was in my mind, I knew that it was pretty much water at that point in time, which was just mischievous and untruthful on my part. So that's one area. Another area that we would do is we would go find the college kids in front of 7-Eleven, and we would ask them to buy it for us. And a lot of times they would, because I guess they had done it before. They call it, "Hey, misters," and they would be like, "Hey, mister, can you buy me this?" and give them the money. And then maybe throw them a couple bucks for their beer,
Right,
so that's another
right.
way. And then in theft, in taking the liquor from well, mostly beer, not liquor, but running into to the store and grabbing it and just running out with it. They call it snatch and grab. So that was something else that we would do. As mischievous kids. So
That's, yeah. And that's hard. How does it feel hearing yourself say that now that you're way older and have been through it all?
shocking. That it's like two different people walking around in the same body.
Yeah. And I had that feeling, and so that's why I wanted to see if you could share that with people who are out there right now who may be dealing with this and trying to get to that other side. Like, you still feel the pain of what you've done, but you know that where you've grown to is so much better place. Can you share how that feels directly from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I try to deal with it is more like making like living amends to people that I've wronged, and that are unable to be around anymore, like my parents who are both passed now. They didn't really get to see me live this sober life, this cleaner life, this God-centered life. And so, although I can't apologize to them in person, I try to live my life in a way that honors them. And but to answer your question more specifically, I think that it's more of like coming to an understanding and not beating myself up with the baseball bat too much, but not forgetting about it either.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, we all have regrets in our lives, right? It doesn't matter what they are. They run the spectrum, but regret doesn't do us good, right? It's a learning experience is what we do in life. And then we move forward and learn from those mistakes and keep going and growing. And that sounds like what you're doing. So how long did your mom live with the disease?
So my mom, she lived with the disease so she just passed away last February. So it's been 2 years. So she lived with it for about, let's see, approximately 35 years, maybe even close to 40 years.
Yeah.
Just a very hard life. It's just a very challenging, frustrating life.
My brother-in-law has MS, and it's definitely hard because you do see the person, and he's working, and thank goodness, and everything still, but you see the changes and you see the difference. And so I understand, and I'm sorry. I know it's hard to have seen that. So let's talk about. I really want you to share your journey about going from all that you just talked about, liquor cabinets, 7-Elevens, all of that. Where did your life take you from there? Now you're, let's say, in high school. What's happening for you?
Yeah, it's progressive. I've read about the abuse. It tends to be progressive. So it starts out in a certain way, and it's like lighting gasoline with a match, and then letting the fire kind of just grow and grow and grow. So as I got into high school, my addiction and my acceptance for like the way that I would live my life with the alcohol was very present, so I played sports in high school, and after the games, we would get kegs and throw keg parties, get liquor from the liquor store using fake IDs. The thing with me though, is like, I never stopped. Like people would at the end of the night would be like, all right, we're going to go home. Even if they were drunk, I would stay, until everything was finished, or I would stay till the end of the party. And I would really, I think at the end of the day, I was drinking to feel different, not to feel inebriated, like not to get the good effects of the alcohol, where like what I mean by good effects is like that joyous feeling or that laughter or that like loosening up. Like I would just feel different than I'd felt because I was so wound up. I was so upset at the world for like having my mom be so sick.
So was there anything else going on in school or anything like that that drove you to want to be that different person, or really was it centered around how difficult it was to see your mom go through these changes?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It was a lot to do with my father as well, because I watched the way that it affected my father and the arguments that they would have and the frustration that my father would have. Like, I think, it's not what he signed up for. It's not really what, and that's the reality. And he didn't know how to deal with it. So his drinking, I'm not going to say he was an addict or an alcoholic, like me, but I think that he used that as a crutch to get him through, and his behavior would change, and I get it to a certain capacity. I mean, the situation, the dynamic between my mother and my father was very strange to me ever since I was a little kid. I never saw them hold hands. I never saw them kiss. Maybe once. They just always seemed like, they would sleep in separate rooms. It always seemed like there was just this disconnect. I never kind of got it. Like, why were they together? It was like something that was always a question to me. And, and my dad moved out of my house when I was 18, and my parents got divorced, and he moved up the street. So my dog would run away. You have a beautiful dog. My dog,
Thank you.
Toby, would run from my mom's house to my dad's house. He didn't know what was what. So it was like a bizarre thing, from my dad's house to my mom's house. Like it was just, it was extremely, I hate to say this because I love them. I think they
Hmm.
did the best they
It's okay.
could. I think that it was very toxic.
There's a lot of that, right? In this world is, you come together as a couple and you have the best intentions and then it doesn't work out. And the leaving part is the hardest part. So that toxicity just keeps going, as a coach myself working with clients, I see this all the time. I've lived it. And so I understand it. And it's not an easy thing. And as a kid, I don't think parents realize how much kids actually see and feel when that's happening. They don't think the kids notice. I think we have this vision that the kids have no idea what's really going on, but that is so not true. They feel every single thing and they can understand it. So that toxicity was was eating you up, it sounds like, inside, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah, it would make me rebel out and in school, like misbehaving, getting in trouble, not doing well in my studies. Just any way, which way I could kind of push the envelope of like not doing the right thing was, I think, because of that frustration that stemmed from my mom's illness and the toxicity of my parents' relationship. Um, I didn't want that for my life, and in my marriage that I have today. It's not that way at all. It's actually quite the opposite.
Yeah,
But I
it's
think it's because
beautiful.
I saw that behavior, and I knew that it's not what I wanted.
So what happened? Was there college after high school for you?
So I went to a college in South Carolina called Charleston Southern, and I started to sell marijuana there on the campus. And so eventually I got ratted out by somebody, and they threw me out of school. I ended up living in a hotel for a week and a half before I told my parents because I was scared to like go home, because my dad had a very bad temper, and they were not happy, obviously, but they had to come down and get me and bring us and bring me back up to New York, into Westchester County, where I'm from, where I grew up, before I moved to the city.
So in your career path from there, what happened?
So I started bartending. I would get jobs anywhere I could. I was a lifeguard at a pool in the city. I ran right away. I ran away right away. So I got home from South Carolina from school, and I immediately like moved myself into the city. So I would work odd jobs like a mechanic's assistant, or and my mom, I think she felt bad for me because of what she was going through, was very enabling in the sense of a monetary standpoint, because she would help me like, money for rent, money for a down payment on an apartment, or a car. Like that was kind of, I think, her way of showing me like, hey, like I do love you, and I'm sorry that this is happening to you, but this is the one way that I can help contribute to making your life a little bit better. Best intentions, but definitely extremely enabling for me to go into the city and move into a whole other world.
Did they know that you had, an addiction issue at that
So
point?
yeah, I think that they were in a bit of denial. I think that it was like at first, when I was younger and sneaking in and hiding it, as I got older, I think they were like, well, he's just a high school college age kid who's going to grow out of it.
Right.
But that never happened.
So you did the odd jobs in New York City, and I don't want to assume the addiction grew, but New York City is known for having drugs and alcohol readily available, especially if you're bartending. So that could not have been helpful for your addiction in any way possible.
No, it like lit it on fire. It was like gasoline to a flame. It just ignited, and it was daily. It became daily use, daily drinking, and so at the time it was a lot of marijuana before I got into cocaine. But yeah, it was not helpful for it at all, for sure.
So how you went from there to where you are today? let's talk about that because I didn't read a lot of what you wrote in here because you talk about this seeing a white light and this transformation. Obviously, you're in church with Armin, you're doing incredible things. I of course want to find out what you're doing, career wise now. But how did you find that moment, and what was that transformation for you?
Yeah. So I wasn't looking for it. I had pretty much given up hope. I was in a place where I was hopeless. I was suicidal. I had had a suicide attempt that didn't go well, in the sense of that I was woken up in a hospital and had to be like revived, and it was a big deal. And so even after that experience, so after that suicide attempt, I was put into a place they call Princeton House in New Jersey. So they had me under 24/7 watch. So they had a guy, I was on their suicide watch. So no matter where I went or what I did while I was in this place, they had somebody watching me. I couldn't shave. Um, they had to watch me brush my teeth, take a, it was everything besides taking a shower really was what they would watch me do, and using the restroom. But so when I came out of Princeton House, my wife was 8 months pregnant with my
Oh,
first.
so you did get married. You did get married.
Did get married. And I remember, because it had been, at least a year and a half of putting my wife through absolute hell. And by hell, I mean just abusive of drugs and alcohol, not being present, and lying, and all these things.
Can I ask a quick question, if you don't mind, before we go to there? Is that, did she know, were you good at hiding that you had an addiction, or did she know going in that there was an issue?
I think she knew that I drank too much, but I think that she was not the drugs. I was always hiding the drugs, which is easier to hide to some, alcohol is a lot more acceptable. So like I would play it off as like, oh, we go out to dinner and I would have some wine, and then like play off like I knew some things about wine, or, like this, it's just like, mature kind of grown up drinker. But then after that, it was just off to the races, pretty much all the time. There were multiple instances where she was like, I'm not sure about this guy, like as an alcoholic, and I can be very manipulative, if that makes sense. And like very like what I want, and like that's where I was at in my head, it was just, that's really what it was.
So I'm sorry, I stopped you about you said
worries.
your wife was 8 months pregnant and you had put her through a lot up until then.
A lot. And so I come out of Princeton House, and I think they call it AMA. I'm not sure if that's the exact term, but it's when you can check yourself out. I didn't have an option to go in. So like, even if I said I didn't want to go in there, they were going to make me go in because I had what I had done, or tried to do. And she sits in the car, and I get in the car with her, and I can see it in her face, like some glimmer of wanting some sense of hope. Like, did they help you in there? Like, she goes, what did they say in there? Like, she had a lot of questions for me. And I just straight told her, straight to her face, I'm like, they told me I could drink a little bit. It was just delusional at that point. And I did continue to drink after that, and use. I was drunk in my daughter's, when my daughter was being born in the hospital. I was coming in and out of a blackout, and the nurses were kind of questioning, should they hand the baby off to me when she was born, because I was just kind of nodding in and out. It was just very bizarre.
Wow, Charles, that's that. How does it feel to say it? Because I know that it can't be easy.
A lot of how my life is today helps me deal with that, because of how good things have become and how great things are now. But during the time, to have me say it, it almost makes me feel like I relive it a little bit, which makes
I see it in your face.
Yeah, makes my stomach, kind of go a little bit, squirrely, because it was so bad, and it didn't get better for even after my daughter was born. I remember holding her and not feeling anything, like not like happy of being a new parent, blessed to have a healthy daughter. I was just blank.
it's a disease, right? I mean, it is a disease, and it's hard for obviously the person in it, but the people watching. It's the same thing as you watching your mom, right? Go through her disease is
Mhm.
the same thing your family, your wife was doing watching you go through yours. And right? And so that's it's hard.
The book is coming. The book is coming. Today is the Day Live It will be published in late January 2026. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com to sign up and be the first to know when pre-orders are available. Live It is the Today's the Day Changemaker story. A story that began with one bold decision I made to spark a movement and create a platform for authentic connection and community. It showcases how a single choice can shift the trajectory of one life and ripple outward to transform the lives of many. Within these pages, you'll hear from 30 changemakers across the globe, from California to Uganda, sharing their voices, their defining shifts, and the impact they've made by choosing courage over fear, even when it seemed impossible. This isn't just a book. It's an invitation for you to believe in the power of one voice, your own. Stay tuned for the official author reveal coming soon, and don't forget to sign up at todayisthedayliveit.com so you don't miss your chance to pre-order. Because today is the day. Live It is more than a book. It's a movement.
So let's talk about what happened, because something miraculous happened and changed what was so difficult for you.
Yep. So we moved into an apartment in Red Bank where I live now. I live in Middletown, whoever's familiar with the area. And there are a lot of bars and restaurants there. So I would go around every day. I didn't have a job, so I would go around each day to all the like bar hop basically, and I knew where to get drugs from who, and I knew how to connive my way into getting what I wanted. And I started to become friendly with bartenders who knew me and would help me, like not help me get drugs, but would like, serve me extra because I would tip well. I had, I'd become friendly with them because that's what an addict, will do is befriend the person that's giving them what they want, and so that behavior of going out in the morning, going through the bar scene, going home at night, pretty much very intoxicated each night, continued for about 6 months after my daughter was born. And there was one day that I don't know if it was dusk or dawn. I don't know. And I want to hit on a point that I think is important, is that
Thanks.
I wasn't looking to get my life together. And I wasn't looking to stop using drugs or stop drinking. There was no inclination of that. Like I hadn't come out of rehab and wasn't like, I'm going to get my life together. I hadn't spoken to counselors and been like working through a system or of therapy that would help me come to grips with my addiction. It was none of that. It was completely just a normal, about to be the beginning or end of a day for me. And I'm laying in bed and I feel this like presence. And the presence I immediately recognize as God, as Christ, as in my belief as a Christian. And the power of that overcoming, I felt like there were lights flashing at me, like you would go to a photographer and they're taking multiple pictures of you with that fast flash lens. It was this literally white lights flashing in front of my eyes. And when I came out of that, I recognized that the urge to use or drink was immediately removed. After all those years of all that drinking and all those drugs, it was immediately removed from me. And I walk out into my living room, my wife's watching TV and she's like, "What's different about you?" She's like, "There's something so different about you." And I'm like, "It's over." I'm like, "I'm done with it. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not taking drugs anymore." And I haven't till this day. And it's been 3.5 years.
Oh, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
amazing. That is truly, truly amazing. And okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, right? Because that's not a typical, usual way that somebody goes through the process. Armin did not have that same process. He did get a sign that saved him, but he went through the process of rehab after rehab and doing all of those kinds of things. You never went back into rehab after that. You never went through anything.
No, I had come out of a detox before that happened.
Right.
I was in multiple detoxes and rehabs, and so I had gone through that. I had spun in and out of those places like a tornado, just in and out, and then right back to it.
Right. Right. And now, at any point, was your wife to the point where she had it?
She says that my wife is an angel, and I love her so much. And
Sounds it.
I could not have done it without her because she stayed by me, even through all the thick and thin of it. She stayed by me and would cry in silence. I never saw her I saw her cry in front of me a couple of times, but she carried a lot of that weight in secret. Like, I think that she didn't want people to see her, that she was really fading away per se. And our relationship was fading away. Um, she never left me, but in speaking with her now, I asked her, like, what's the worst part about what we went through together? And it wasn't like the actual drinking or the drugs or I would thought it was going to be when my daughter was born and I was, intoxicated in the room while she's giving birth.
Right.
She says I had become completely hopeless. Like, I had zero hope. I was like, I'm just going to either die drinking myself or drugging myself to death, or I'll overdose, or I'm not going to say I was suicidal at that point, but I was in a very, very dark, just hopeless place.
So you leave your bedroom, you have this incredible moment, your wife notices that something's changed, and what happens from there?
So the next day, this is actually going to tie Armand into my story,
Yeah.
which is cool. So it wasn't the next day, it was probably 3 days later. So from that moment on, I didn't use or drink or anything like that. And I was walking to get a coffee in this place called Sickles that was down the street from our apartment.
Yeah.
And I walk into Sickles and I hear Armand and three other gentlemen, Dan, Jacob, and Nick, are having a Bible study. And I overhear them talking, so I go up to them and I'm like, hey, like, what are you guys, are you guys talking about, God and the Bible? And they're like, yeah, you want to sit down and hang out with us? And I was like, sure. So I stuck around and I got Armand's number. And then that's how I ended up at Colts Community Church. So my interaction and meeting with Armand is another. I didn't know Armand until I walked into that Sickles, and now him and I are tight as can be. I believe God was working in it through everything, just guiding my steps. And in the darkest of hours was still there with me, even though I didn't think that he was there for me. He was still there.
And for those listening, as I said earlier in this podcast, it can be any higher power, but the signs that you're receiving, if you're open to them, right? You were open to them. You don't know how and why, but it came. And when it came, there was that you needed to hear it. You didn't even know it was coming, and it happened. And then miraculously, Armand is sitting in Sickles having a Bible study. These things are not by accident, and that I know. And I feel I should say that I know for me, my opinion. These things are not by accident. They're put in our paths for reasons, to save us, to help us, to be there of support. You could have gone either way, Charles. You could have heard it and just walked past it and not have done anything. I mean, it takes a little bit of guts to go up to, 3, 4 other guys who are sitting around a table to say, hey, what are you guys talking about, when you don't even know them, right? So something had to give you even if you're an outgoing person, it still takes something to just go over to strangers and say, What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, for sure. I think that the thing in my brain was that things were lining up for me. Like I had the obsession removed and miraculously, and my eyes and my soul came back alive. Like I was like gray and dark and dismal and even physically looked that way. So when I walked out of the room, my wife saw me, like my color had returned to my face. My eyes were a little clearer than they would normally have been. And I was awake and I was cognitively aware of like what we were talking about. So when I met Armand and those guys there, I was like walking on like this like cloud that I can't explain, but it was like I could have, solved all the world's problems, at that moment in
Nice.
time. Like I was just so, people will call it on the beam, or people will call it, born again, or people will call it, there's a lot of different terminology that people will use for these types of experiences. But I was just clear headed and just no hesitation at all.
And that's so beautiful. There's somebody listening to this right now going, I'm not getting these signs. This is not happening for me. I've asked for them and I need help it's not coming to me. What do you have for those who are feeling hopeless and wish that this sign came to them?
Yes. So that's the thing I would want people to take away from my message is the most important thing is that there's always hope. There's always hope. And as low as it got for me, is to hang on, and when you're religious or spirituality, I would call it prayer, and pray. And if you're not getting the signs now, just hold on. It may not be like how it was with me, but it may be how it was with Armand, where it was a gradual, coming to through the rehab process. It doesn't have to be this white light experience, but there is always hope. And to just hold on that extra day, that extra minute, that extra hour, and just hold on.
So what kind of work did you fall into at this point?
Yeah, it's a great job. I mean, I'm thriving in my work. So I work for a company with a friend of mine, and we recruit lawyers for law firms. And I work remote. I work, pretty much on my own time. I can pick up my daughter from school. I can do a podcast. you know, it's very freeing, and it's very just another blessing, another gift that I wasn't expecting to happen, but did. As I started, I think that when you start to do the right things happen. So when I had that obsession removed, I started to do the right things and the next right thing and the next right thing. And my decision making was able to become clearer. So my conversations with people would be more fluid. I was like a zombie. I was like a walking zombie before. And now I was able to communicate, and I was able to get myself into this great job. So
I give you so many kudos, credit. I don't know what the right words are, Charles, but the fact that you let the light in to take out that darkness is just so beautiful and really showcases to those out there it is possible even when it seems impossible.
great way to put it. Awesome way to
You
put
know,
it. Awesome way to put it. Yep, that's exactly right. It is possible. As dark as it can get, it is possible. And just to hold on to that little spark, that little glimmer, whatever that is for you, to hold on to that. And like you said, the impossible can become possible. I really like that a lot. That's a great terminology. Great word to put it.
is there any way people can get in touch with you if they have questions? Do you have an Instagram or anything like that that you're willing to share?
Yeah, of course. I'll just pull up because it's hard to spell. It's not that it's hard to say, it's just hard to spell. It's sorry.
No, take your time. This is all good. I think it's important for people to have, if they feel connected to you and it can save their life, I like to give people an opportunity to have that connection.
Absolutely. I welcome that. So it's Hendry Hill, HENDRIEEHILL. And then it's
And that,
Charles A. Reed is my name.
okay. So the Henry Hill, that's an Instagram.
Instagram tag, yeah.
Okay, great. Great. And now are with Armand, are you guys doing things over at the church or speaking to other people about your stories? I know Armand is. Do you go out at all and speak about your story?
I do. I actually do it as much as I can. I speak at the Asbury Men's Mission once a month.
That's so great.
It's a place that gives a lot of hope to people that are very downtrodden and going through just going through it. Um, so I've spoken there several times. People have asked me to go on on speaking commitments and going to rehab. I've gone to rehabs in New Jersey, like in spoken with people and the rehabs that not in the Princeton house that I was in. So going back there and speaking about that there, showing the message that it is possible, to come out and to get to have things fall into place.
I truly believe that when people go through things like this or anything that is traumatic and they have an opportunity to share their journey, it helps to save lives on the other side because people need to see that there is another way. And that what is, as we said, I was saying possible and impossible. I'll say it again. What is possible to happen when things just seem so gray. So thank you for going out and sharing your words with others and helping to save lives and give people hope. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. And it does more for me than I can do for them, truly it does. If there's anything that helps keep me, in this way is helping somebody else out that I can help. That keeps me pretty straight and narrow as opposed to like going backwards into the throes of that situation, which I don't have the urge to do that and I don't have the desire to do that, but helping other people definitely keeps me grateful.
Right. Right. And how old is your daughter now?
So I have two daughters. So I have a
Oh,
4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And the 2-year-old, so it's Penelope and Sunny,
oh,
two girls. And my younger one, Sunny, I was able to be present in the emergency room when she was being born. I was able to hold my wife's hand. I was able to hold my baby and weep over the beauty of her. It was a completely night and day experience. And earlier in our conversation, we talked about amends, right? So like my amend to my older daughter, Penelope, is to have her never see me like that, where she would remember it.
yeah. That's
So she technically saw me that way, but unless she has the most amazing memory, and that she would constantly remember that moment.
yeah.
So yeah, so I was able to be there with my wife for my second daughter, and what a gift, what a blessing.
It is. It is a gift and a blessing. And it's so good you got to experience it and really understand that gift and blessing that second time and make your amends with your first daughter by just setting that incredible example, right? Because you never want her to go through what you went through. And you want to set that incredible example and showcase what's possible, right? And all the goodness that's out there in this world. Charles, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners as we come to the end of our interview?
Yeah, I think that just to go back to what we were speaking about, that life will throw challenges and life will get lifey per se, and things will get tricky and things can be hard. But if you find your way to a place where you can just hold on to that hope, to some level of that hope, that the impossible can become possible, like you said so greatly. Life will open itself up and the right things will start to happen. And the last thing I'll say is for anybody out there that's struggling with addiction and alcoholism and drug addiction, if you're able to stop and get yourself into a program, into a 12-step program, or into some kind of therapeutic area that would help your addiction, on some level, your life will get better by separating yourself from that. I don't know exactly what level that would be, but if you do stop using and drinking, the it gives you the opportunity, it gives you a chance. That's
Right.
what I want to say. If it doesn't stop, then it's obviously a lot harder.
Is there a book in you as well, like Armin?
Possibly, I don't know. More maybe like some kind of just thought pieces that I would
Mhm.
present to certain publications. Yeah, a book maybe, maybe.
But you know what? Sharing your story in any way, it doesn't have to be a book. Like you said, it could be a Facebook post. It could be any way that you could share it, and you are sharing it, and it's beautiful. For those who are looking for a book, I will again share Armin's book, which is He Calls Me Redeemed. It really took me on a ride, and he's a great writer, and I was definitely just stunned at what he had been through, and hearing what you've been through and the things that you've endured. It's it's just unbelievable to see the absolute endurance that people can go through and come out on the side and be a shining, brilliant light to help other people out there like yourself. And so please keep shining your light because the world needs it.
Thank you, thank you. It means the
You
world
are
to me.
welcome. Absolutely. Keep us posted. I would love to have you come back and you share what's new and happening and how things are going. And if any of your publications do come out or anything does, any other things that you need to share through us, you're part of the Changemaker family now. So welcome.
Very grateful to be on here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So, what small or large step are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goal? Charles Reed, thank you for sharing your beautiful story and keep shining, like I said, that light so that you can help bring people out of the gray.
Will do. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a great week, everyone. And don't forget, subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day. Live it. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.